my god, I didn't know they had this song all the way back then. That's crazy. All right, you wanna hop into this thing real quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
Let me know when we're good to go.
We're good right now.
Oh no.
What's up, guys? I'm Shavo.
And I am Bootsy. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Booze and Boss Fights. So kick back, grab your favorite drink, and come chill with us. But let's get right on into it. Today, we are going to be talking about Starfield and what we like and what we dislike about the game. But first things first, we have to crack open our beverages of choice. So, Shava, what are you drinking today?
Well, my dear friend Bootsy, today I am drinking a little beer from Wicked Weed. Of course, everyone knows Wicked Weed. Surprisingly, I've not had a lot of beers from Wicked Weed. This one is, if we'll get a little focus in on here for our video viewers, Wicked Weed Dr. Dank Apple or Pineapple Dream. Yeah, love me some fruity beers. And
I love that artwork.
I saw this.
That label art's dope.
It's fantastic. I like a lot of their can art, but I feel like that's just like an IP thing in general. But anyways, here, I'll let you introduce yours, and then we'll take a little sippy sip together, because that's so cute.
All right, so I'm actually going back to my roots a little bit here, going back to one of my favorite breweries and one of my favorite beers from one of my favorite breweries from back home, from the motherland, we might say. Drinking Double Mosaic Dream by Other Half Brewing. I don't know if my camera's going to focus because I don't have one of those special fancy pants cameras. Oh, definitely not. But maybe for the visual people, we can put some sort of visual aid up there or something of the can, because it's not going to happen in this lighting. But
yeah, we'll throw it up there.
Make it a little cracksy in for you.
Ooh. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's going to sound real nice on the car speakers.
It's going to sound really nice when I put these up to my Bose sound system in the house.
I do not have a fancy glass today, but that's okay. We're going to do it the old-fashioned way out of a can.
Maybe we can get a better... There we go. So you kind of get an idea of what the beer looks like in the glass. So
I've been outdone.
Glass, so you're stuck with a Brick City glass, which is another brewery from North Jersey. But
yeah, that looks amazing.
Other half is in. Well, originated in Brooklyn, and they now have a couple of satellite locations. I know they have one here in the DC area. So, all right.
Sick.
So you want to be cute and get a little sippy sip together?
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers.
Ooh, yeah, that's nice. I like it. I'm not one of those people that can tell you all the notes and little ingredients that I can pick up, but if it tastes good, then I like it. So I like this one. I'll let you know how I like it at the end after I've been drinking on it for however long this podcast goes on for.
Yeah. First sip is always a nice one, but got to see how it kind of levels out as time goes on, right?
For sure. Well, so today, as you know, we're talking Starfield. With us just gonna, we're gonna go ahead and just jump right into it. I am curious to know your kind of first experiences with the game. We've kind of talked about it a little bit, and especially over today as we've been organizing this episode, it's been starting to spill out, and then we've continuously been let's not talk about this yet because we're literally about to make a podcast about it.
Right,
but now the time is finally here, Bootsy. Whenever I even told you I started playing Starfield, you were like, "Oh, dude, I've been playing this." It sounds like we've had different experiences with the game. I would love to know what your thoughts were when you first loaded up the game and got into this universe.
So, for sure, if there's one thing that I've always been a big fan of, it's always been the Bethesda titles. I was a huge fan of the Elder Scrolls series, still am. A huge fan of the Fallout series, including Fallout New Vegas, which obviously is not a Bethesda game, but still part of the Fallout series.
Yeah,
Fallout 76 we won't talk about.
Yeah. What was that? Yeah.
But for the most part, like I've always been a fan of the Bethesda RPGs. And so when I found out that, Starfield was releasing this year, I was super stoked on it. So much so to the point where I knew that my work schedule was not going to coincide with the game release. So I pre-ordered the game just so I could play it before I went back on shift. So I was very, very excited for Starfield when it first came out. And when it came out, I was so happy with the game. Like, everything from the music to the visuals to me failing trying to play this game on a normal hard drive instead of a solid state.
Yeah.
I learned the hard way that I needed to play this on a solid state. But overall, like my first couple of hours of that game were, I don't know, it was just pure joy. Like, I was so happy. Like, I was waiting. Like, I would wake up on my days off earlier than I probably would if I was getting ready for work, just so I could go downstairs and play Starfield.
Yes. Oh man, that's just the best feeling in general with video games. And it's like, I found as I get older, I experience that a lot less, except for like very specific video games. And a good example of these video games would be like games that can bring nostalgia back. Which I think Starfield still falls into that category, right? Because it's a Bethesda game and it's a new IP from Bethesda. There's something about that new feeling, Bethesda launching a new game, that like kind of brings back the whole midnight release for Skyrim, or like, if you go, I use that as an example because Skyrim was the first Bethesda game that I jumped into personally. Right. But so many of my friends, Morrowind, Oblivion, those kind of experiences. But even games like, and we'll talk about this later, I don't want to like go too far into it, but like games like Alan Wake 2, that was like a super nostalgic thing, even though that's a brand new game. Right. That's like top of the line graphics, like looks amazing. It's a very nostalgic thing for me to like sit down and play.
Oh yeah. And that was the same thing for me with like the excitement over the Resident Evil 4 release.
Yeah.
Or the re-release. Like, for me, I was so excited when I found out that was going to be coming out, and was like just counting down the days until the release. So that feeling that you don't really get that feeling all too often when it comes to video games anymore. Unfortunately,
you got to cherish it while it happens. But so if I can jump in when it comes to my first experience with Starfield,
sure.
I wanted to have that feeling you had so bad. I was actually really excited. I was at work watching videos of like content creators that had gotten their hands on a copy early, and not showing off spoilers, but like showing off their like custom ships they were building. And me, like, I was watching it and I'm like, oh my God, I cannot wait to start playing this game. It's going to look amazing. I'm already a massive fan of Bethesda, longtime player of like Star Citizen, games like that. Mix those two together, like that's a perfect game for me. I downloaded it, I started playing it, and I had that feeling in my chest of like, oh man, like here it goes, like it begins now. And I was waiting and waiting and waiting, and I just never got that feeling of like, oh yes, it feels so good to be playing this. It was like, it's that feeling when you're starting, like when you're loading up the game and you're like, oh man, this is taking way too long to load up. But it's like, I went through like several chapters. I don't know if you'd call it chapters, but chapters of the game. And I kept that feeling of like, when is the good feeling going to happen? And yeah, long story short, I didn't quite get there, but we'll, we can discuss other things about the game before I guess I give my like official like testament of the game, because I have a feeling especially with how long you've played it, and like up on the screen right now, there's like currently gameplay going of you playing it. You put in like a lot of time into it, and we're playing it on stream. Like, do you have highlights of while you were playing it? Like, are there missions that stood out or Easter eggs that happen, stuff that maybe I didn't experience that you kind of naturally stumble across it just through putting in the game time?
So I don't know if it's necessary. It's not an Easter egg, but it can kind of go into a positive and a negative. That once you start the Crimson Fleet quest line, and for those of you that don't know, the Crimson Fleet are like the pirate faction of the game. They're the bad guys, basically. And if you start the quest line for the Crimson Fleet, you could just stop the quest line and just go do whatever you want. And then any mission that takes you to a Crimson Fleet base just becomes easy mode because they don't attack you. So you can just run right through an entire mission, and they're like, "Oh, you have to go get this, this thing at the end of this base."
Right.
And it's surrounded by Crimson Fleet guards, and you walk in and you're like, "Hi, Jim. Hi, Chris." And they're like, "Oh, hey, Bootsy, what's going on?" And you just walk right on in, and you're like, "Hey, I need this base, or I need this thing." And the guy at the end's like, "Well, this is mine." And you're like, "I'll just pay you for it." He's like, "Okay." And he gives it to you, and that's the end of the mission. And we just waltz right on up. So I almost so I have two different playthroughs that I did. I have one playthrough where I had a stream playthrough, which is the video that you're seeing now. But I also have like my own playthrough that I did offline. And once I realized that actually became like easy mode, then I started to kind of backtrack and align more with like the UC Navy instead of the Crimson Fleet. So that way I could have that kind of challenge again when I went back into those bases, because it was just, I don't know, after a while it kind of got boring with just waltzing right on through, grabbing what you need and just leaving.
Right. Yeah.
But I liked a lot of like the smaller interactions when you would warp to another planet, especially when you were in orbit above that planet. Sometimes you had little things pop up where you'd run into Grandma, or you'd run into I forget what his name was. He was the dude that sounds like Ed Sheeran when he sings. I don't remember. He's like he's on like a ship called the Valentine or something like that, and all he does is just sing. And you just sit there and you just kind of take it in, and there's little ambience, and there's those little things to kind of make the world feel more alive. I like those little tiny interactions with all of those different characters, albeit whether it's on land or in space. So
yeah, for sure. And yeah, that being said, I definitely discovered some of those. That's something I'm not going to be picky about, because things like that are, as you progress through the game and unlock more like of the universe to explore, of course you're going to like run into more stuff like that, and instead of like just the stuff you run into at the very beginning of the game. So I can't be too critical of that, as I did not put in that like mid tier / end game time, but definitely towards the beginning, like all of the stuff with what happened to Discord?
I think we lost your camera.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Here, we'll fix this.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Sorry, video viewers. But yeah, like the stuff with the grandma that like invites you onto her ship and stuff. That was it, like just being on a mission and being, for me, I get very tunnel visioned with what I'm doing in game. So when I'm given a mission in the game, I'm flying to wherever I'm going. I'm doing that thing. But whenever I fly somewhere and the first thing I hear about is grandma saying, "Hey, come over for a second," like
it's like Hansel and Gretel. You're like, "I'm not going in there. She's going to eat me."
Exactly. Yeah, kind of. But yes, no, it was, oh, hello, that's my face.
Oh, welcome back.
It's It's little things like that. There we go. There's the size that we need. It's little things like that.
Do we always find the right size?
Yeah, it takes some time, but now we're comfortable. Yeah, it's cool to experience those things in game, and I love it because it shows the time and the care that the devs put into stuff like that, you know. So yeah, that I definitely love. My issue, and man, my issues might not even be real issues, right? But that's what makes it my opinion is while I'm playing, I'm kind of only doing what I'm told to do and then going to do that and then coming back. And I feel like while like I don't have that natural opportunity to explore, like, and I know I might get some shit for this, but like the feeling when you walk out of the cave in Skyrim and the whole world just opens up to you and you completely forget what you're even doing. Like the fact that you came from Helgen being attacked by a dragon after being a prisoner, like you forget everything. You're just like, right. Oh my God, this is amazing. And you see a mountain or a river and you just go straight there. And that's all you're thinking about. You're so overwhelmed by like the beauty and the natural adventure that's put in front of you. And I feel like that didn't happen with me with Starfield, and that could just be a personal experience. That the way
help that you just start on a moon. I mean,
yeah,
just on a desolate moon with like a mining camp on there, and that's it. So.
Right, and they're all like mad that you're leaving, and I'm like, bro, you're mad that I'm leaving this minimum wage job to go actually do something worth it, like. Yeah, I understand the little introduction and this, that, and the other, and like I guess you could equate that to like the whole riding in on the cart to Helgen with Skyrim. And I'm sorry, the people that are like they're tired of hearing Skyrim references when it comes to comparing the Starfield and Skyrim, but I feel like it's an easy thing to do. It's basically space Skyrim.
I mean, even the same thing with the Fallout series. I mean, when you walk out of the vault for the first time in Fallout 3, and you're just opened out to like this nuclear wasteland, it like, and then the same thing, like the world is your oyster. Now you're just you're in nuclear wasteland DC.
Yes.
Or even in Fallout 4, you're just in nuclear wasteland Boston or nuclear wasteland Vegas. Just that overall first feeling when you walk out of the vault.
Yeah.
When you hear the music playing and the vault animation is going, and you're like, you finally step outside and you're like, holy shit, I have so much to do in this game now.
Oh,
because
man.
You're just thrown into it.
That
was the beauty of it.
It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. And like specifically with like Fallout 3 too, like you step out of the vault, you look around and you're just like, there's like everything is gone. Everything's gone, and then you see like the dilapidated cityscape of DC, and you're just like, this is wild. Like this is such a weird it makes you want to be there. No, maybe without losing your skin and becoming like getting radiation poisoning, but like it's one of those things.
Smooth skin.
Yeah, dude, you're just yeah, man. But it's so cool, and I got a little bit of the I would love to be there with Starfield, but it was more like the spaceships and landing at some of the different locations. Like, for example, this is one huge positives, and I guess with me saying that, if you're ready to, we can maybe move into like listing some of the positives that we personally find about the game.
Do it.
Huge one. I love this moment actually, and luckily it actually was very early on in the game, so it was one of those things that kept me holding on it and continue playing, which was a mission, and I don't remember the name of the mission, so I apologize for that. But you go to some random outpost on some planet, and it's being tormented by a creature, and of course I can't remember the name of the creature either, but they're like these creatures that civilization was basically like destroyed by. And
the terramorphs?
Yes, thank you. And you're just simply told about the terramorphs. You don't know anything about them, right? And for a split second, and as someone that is such a baby when it comes to jump scares and horror games, I love horror games. I hate getting jump scared, but I love horror games. I don't know why. I love the creepiness of it. But you land on that planet, or you land at that outpost, and for me, I don't know if it's different for other people, but it was nighttime. I was walking up to the outpost. There's like blood, there's like dead bodies, and then there's that one person that's left, and she's like, "Oh, it's out there." And like, if you're gonna kill it, I forget the exact dialogue, but like, good luck, pretty much. And there's a moment where it's like you have to go turn on the turrets or the lights or whatever. And for a split second, there was that old school horror game vibe that I felt, where I don't know what the monster looks like, right? Classic like werewolf film, what is it, Werewolf in London or whatever. The whole movie, you don't know what it looks like, and then the split second you see a glimpse of it, it scares the living shit out of you. I did not know what to expect. You hear it all of a sudden, and then like you're looking for the lights to turn on, and you're like, is it behind me, is it outside? And the whole encounter ended up not being like that difficult at all, but it's the silence, and it's like the build up, and I enjoyed it so much to where I was like, I'm playing Starfield, but it feels like in this specific mission I'm playing a horror game. And that was one of the coolest, like, I don't know, it was one of the coolest experiences I had in the game while I was playing it. I don't know if that was like a similar experience you had, but yeah, it was fantastic.
So I played through the UC Navy quest line for one of my characters, and I enjoyed it because I felt the whole UC Navy quest line is basically Starship Troopers of the video game.
Right.
Because those terramorphs are basically the same creatures from Starship Troopers, and that's what you're doing. Your job is to just eliminate them. But the storyline, the quest line with that was a lot of fun because, again, you have that Starship Trooper vibe, and Starship Troopers is a great movie. If you haven't seen it, go see it. But I think for me, I had that when you walk out of the cave in Skyrim or come out of the vault in Fallout games, I had that vibe when you land at New Atlantis for the first time.
Mm.
When you land at New Atlantis for the first time and you just take everything in as to what all of New Atlantis has to offer, as long as you don't use like the fast travel system and you walk around, you can really walk around that city and be like, wow, they did a phenomenal job with it.
Right.
And then you find out, like, when you're on top of, like, when you're just walking around normally, you don't realize that there's actually more to the city because there's a whole undercity. Excuse me, there's a whole undercity as well. So there's a lot more to it. And I guess also coming from, because you and I both have played Star Citizen, the worlds actually felt alive, which was a nice change of pace.
Yeah.
You know, and another nice thing that I liked about it was there was an option in the an option in the game options that allowed you to choose how dense you wanted the populations to be in each city, depending on like if your computer could handle it. So if you had a very high end PC that could run this game without any issues, you can slap that bad boy all the way up to the top, and you can have, you know, almost that feeling of New York City where you're just kind of walking butts to nuts, as we like to call it. So, you know, you kind of have that. Oh, you didn't know about butts to nuts, or you didn't know about?
I know about
New York
butts to
City?
nuts. I won't. I won't say my experience with butts to nuts, but I didn't know about the city in the game where it's that populated. I definitely did not get to that point on my graphic settings. I don't have a low tier computer, but I definitely don't have like the highest tier computer.
Yeah, they kind of the basic setting, I think, is based off. The setting is based off of whatever your whatever you make like your general settings to be, and it'll just adjust it based off of that. But if you think your computer can hold more or less, it helps to make the cities feel more alive, like there's actually people there, as opposed to and plus there's like so much small little dialogue that's going on. You can hang out and listen to like a group of people talk for 20 minutes, and they have a whole dialogue. There's a whole story that goes along with them.
Yeah,
and that's one thing that Bethesda's always done a great job with is their storytelling. And I feel like you can kind of get an insight for certain people. Sometimes you might hear the same story as you go through a city, but you're going to hear that in any Bethesda game, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
But the first time you do hear it, you might, if you're somebody who enjoys the lore of a game, Bethesda's always been good at that. There's always a plethora of lore for you to read, regardless of where you are in the game. So
yes, yeah, and that's just I feel like the magic of Bethesda right there. Especially even though like I think some people would definitely consider it a flaw of like the repeat conversations and the repeat like NPC dialogues that you're walking by them in a city, but also without that we would have never gotten the I used to be an adventurer like you until I took an arrow in the knee. Right, exactly.
And the nice thing too is that the dialogue changes based off of the decisions that you make throughout the game. So some guards or some people may treat you a certain way when you go into a specific city based off of choices that you made from a previous mission. So, you may actually lose certain dialogue options based off of the decisions that you make. So, I don't know. Bethesda's always done a great job with that, so I think that's a huge positive for me from a from a Starfield standpoint is just their storytelling in general.
Right.
The overarching story, we'll get to that. But as far as like learning the lore of different areas and hearing the little side stories that go on with characters, definitely something I always enjoy. I'm not one of those people that like to blow through a game and just play the storyline and I'm done. I'm one of those people that will pick up every single piece of information that I can and learn the story from the side as well as not just the main story. So,
yeah. Funny you say that. I was, before the official like launch date of the game, I was watching a streamer on Twitch talking about the story. He'd played it before everyone else, and he like realistically he was like nowhere in the game yet, but he had beat the main storyline, and he said to him, for him personally, he was not incredibly impressed with the grab you part of the game, the part of the game that really like holds your attention and you're like, oh man, what's happening to these people, until he started a lot of the side quests, which was after he finished the main storyline. And that was brought up in his chat because someone asked the question of does it get better, because I guess they just weren't having a great time with it. And he said, get past the main story quest, or just simply don't start the main story quest yet and start a side quest and just start going down that side quest. And he said personally the game just like it felt like it opened up more to where the characters started, like he started feeling a more of a connection with the characters, I guess.
Right.
And so I actually started doing that after I heard him talk about that. I started the main story, and then as I was going, I remembered him talking about that, and so I switched to. Oh, I can't remember the name of the faction. They wear like all orange, and
Freestar.
Yeah, yep.
Freestar Collective.
I'm pretty sure.
They're the ones that do like the Ranger. You have the Ranger quest line where you can kind of be one of the Freestar Rangers, but their character, I think their flight suits are also orange.
Yes. So I think I mixed up the flight suits, but yeah, it's like the guys that are basically like the sheriffs, or like
Yep.
Yeah, you start it by doing like the whole bank heist thing quest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the Freestars.
Yeah, I ended up actually having a lot of fun with that.
That was a great quest line.
Yeah, and then of course the reward at the end was like me not having I guess it's been out for a while. Me not having another ship yet. I wasn't expecting that. I was just playing the game just to play it, and then they're basically just like, "Hey, look at this," and I'm like, "Oh, what? No way! Like how cool is this?"
It might be an unpopular opinion, but I think that ship is better than the Mantis ship. Just overall size and firepower, I think is just a better ship than what you get in the Mantis mission. So
interesting. Yeah, that's one I don't think I've done. Well, if you get another ship from it, yeah, then I definitely haven't done it. But yeah, that was a really fun thing to do, and like getting myself to stop for a second from the main story and feeling actually that I was almost instantly grabbed by a more side story. It was fun. It was fun, and it made me not be so critical of the game for a little while. And I wouldn't say I'm like an overly critical game player. It's more just like I feel like I fit into that category of gamers where whenever I drop money on a game, and we'll forget about the fact that I played it on Game Pass for a second, but when I drop money on a game, I want to have that level of entertainment for the money that I spend, and if it exceeds that, then it's just at that point it's just a great experience to me. So
right.
So yeah, I mean, like for paying $15 for Game Pass Ultimate, I didn't lose anything, right? Like it was still a beautiful game for me. I still think it's really cool. I could see myself returning to it. But if it's any constellation, I uninstalled it for another game.
There, Constellation.
Hey,
Constellation.
There you go. Yeah, whenever I was trying to install another game and it said, "Hey, you need some space on your solid state," I was like, "Oh, let me uninstall Starfield." And I hope I don't get crucified for saying that, but I mean, it is what it is. I don't have a stockpile of solid states, and it was a hefty game on there, so I took it off for now. And I mean, I love the fact that everything's on Game Pass. So I'm sure I will return to it, but yeah, it's just it didn't hook me the way I really wanted it to. But I didn't mean for it to happen like this, but I feel myself drifting towards the negatives. So before, I don't want to go off, right? I don't want to go off and have like a 20-minute Shavo on his soapbox of negatives about this game. But like, as someone that seemed like they thoroughly enjoyed their time with the game, like I guess like what's the first things that jumped out to you, or things where you're just like, oh, dude, don't ruin the game like this, or like things where you're just like, oh man, I would pay money to not have to do this right now.
Well, first of all, let me get like some of the other good things about the game.
Sure,
before we start jumping into the bad things. So I would definitely say visually, the game is absolutely beautiful.
For sure.
Even if you run the game on lower settings, the game is still a beautiful game. A lot of the dialogue options, or a lot of the missions in general, the side missions especially, and the side quests, whether you were doing Crimson Fleet, UC Navy, Freestar Collective, they were all great. I really enjoyed playing each of them. And like I said, we'll get to the main story later, but for the most part, the side missions were great. I really, really enjoyed them. And they were missions that made me want to actually move on to the next part of the mission. Like, I remember playing the Freestar Collective missions, and I finished the last Freestar Collection mission, or Collective mission, at like 4 a.m. I played the entire mission like set all night because I was so hooked to the story and I wanted to know what happened next, to the point where I finished and I was like, oh, it's got to be like 1:30 in the morning, right? And I looked at my phone and it was 4. And I was like,
That's awesome.
I need to go to bed. But I think the side quest storylines were great. I think a lot of the lore that was built into, whether it was audio recordings or in any of the terminals, if you read anything that was in the terminals, I think the lore was really great, so you can kind of get a good idea of what happened at each little base that you went to. and just the fact that it was something different. You don't get this is not, we think of space, we don't think of a Bethesda product. So
right.
It was nice to actually have something that was different than a new Fallout or a new Elder Scrolls. So it was a nice little change of pace. And another big thing that I personally am a big fan of is we had a lot of botched video games this year. A lot of games that came out and off the rip were absolutely garbage, unfinished, unoptimized. They were just poorly done. So games were literally unplayable at launch. Starfield, despite its flaws, was not one of those games. Sure, you have Bethesda bugs. Those bugs exist in any sort of Bethesda game. Any bug that you take, you're like, oh, it's a Bethesda game.
It's almost a positive at this point.
yeah, exactly. Look, I'm gonna shoot a rabbit in Skyrim, and it's gonna shoot into space at like Mach 7. I'm not mad that I lost. Right, exactly.
It ruined my immersion.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But the fact that Starfield didn't have any issues at launch, and anybody can sit here and say like, oh, it's been in production for X amount of years. It's been in production for over 8 years at this point. It should come out perfectly. Yeah, that should be the case no matter what, right? But unfortunately, that's not the norm anymore when it comes to video games. So the fact that the game might not have necessarily been perfect, but the fact that the game was actually playable on launch and it didn't have any launch issues, I think is a huge plus for me, because like I said, we really didn't have many of those. Like one of the other big ones was Baldur's Gate 3 this year, which I don't think we'd need a negative for that if we did a podcast on Baldur's Gate 3, but
not from me. No.
That was when you look at those, when you look at the amount of games that kind of launched without a hitch this year, like there you can probably only count on one hand, especially from a AAA developer. So kudos to Bethesda for not botching this release. So I will give them that as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I just want to say a polite reminder to anyone listening. You know what? I don't want it to seem like I'm like going super hard on Bethesda.
Yes, it's okay.
I'm definitely not going hard on Bethesda because I wouldn't call myself like a diehard fanboy, but I mean, anytime there's a Bethesda conference, that's like the one thing I'm looking forward to, like for the rest of my week. As soon as or as soon as it's coming up, that's all I'm looking forward to. But nowadays I do take for granted the amount of moving parts and pieces that it takes to make a game like this. And yeah, so like for a game to come out like this and for it to have the level of smoothness that it did and does continue to have, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna give myself a little slap on the wrist here for not taking that into consideration and listing that as a positive, because I think, like you said, where it's kind of like we're done with the days where it's like a game comes out perfect, but like we're also done with the days where games are that simple. Like a game like this, I can't even begin to comprehend the level of development and like the level of skill needed and how many moving parts, and like I just don't get it. So you know what, I'm gonna, like I already gave myself the slap on the wrist. If you want me to see myself physically harm myself more, you're gonna have to subscribe to another kind of service. But that's all I'm gonna say about that. Is I did take that for granted. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And also the fact of that I didn't even jump into a lot of these stories that you were talking about, like what were we saying, the new Star Galactic? Is that or what was the faction that you said you were working on?
So there was the UC Navy, the Freestar Collective, and Crimson Fleet.
Crimson Fleet, gotcha. Yeah, which I know I don't believe I did anything with the Crimson Fleet.
That was a fun quest line.
Yeah, so
I had a lot of fun with that one. I couldn't stand the people, which makes sense. I mean, they're a bunch of pirates. They're a bunch of assholes, but that's probably just in my nature. I just don't like assholes, which is really strange because I'm one of them. So
I thought it's just from our experiences together. I was gonna ask you. You said you had a couple of playthroughs. I was gonna ask if you did like a bad guy playthrough or like something.
Yes.
You did. Okay. How did that go?
So that was my Crimson Fleet playthrough.
Okay. Yeah.
It is so much fun. All right. Let me preface this before we move forward.
Okay.
I am in no way mentally deranged in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
Before, but saving before you go into a nightclub and you shoot it up in Starfield, it's hilarious.
Do I censor that?
I don't know if we should. Look,
we're just gonna
the freedom. So like, I had a time where I was in the nightclub on Neon. Oh, that's another quest line, is the Ryujin quest line, which is also a lot of fun. But anyway, so going back to that, going back to the nightclub in Neon, yeah. So I went in there and I accidentally shot somebody in the nightclub. And
accidentally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, okay. So it wasn't accidentally. I hate it. There was like one dude that was up dancing. There's like that little center stage in the middle of the nightclub. Yeah. And this one dude's dancing in this like really weird looking alien costume. And he's like, "Come on, it's a lot of fun." And I was like, "Shut the fuck up." And I shot him and it just set off a whole chain of events. Everybody started running and panicking, and it felt like the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 airport scene.
Oh, the
where
No Russia or whatever it's called.
Yes. So everybody starts shooting me. I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm here. We may as well just roll into it. So I just fought for as long as I possibly could. I was actually in a call with a couple of other people on Discord. I think it was like Bolt Cat, Irish.
Shout out Bolt Cat.
Yeah, and I had like one of those, like the katana sword, the Wakazushi or whatever it's called, and that's all I used. And I just ran around just slicing people up, and I had so much fun. I was crying laughing because like bodies were ragdolling all over the place, and I survived way longer than I should have. I eventually died, but I had a lot of fun with those kind of things.
Not without letting that guy who was having fun on a Friday night know to stop that shit.
Please don't put me in a padded cell. But no, like the freedom to be able to do those kind of things. Like, look, I know I'm not alone when it comes to like a game like GTA, where you're gonna walk into some place or you're gonna throw a hooker out the car off a cliff, right?
First thing I do.
I'm not right. So the second you load in, you're like, what can I do to these people? Yeah. So there's always, every one of you has that little instinct in the back of your head. Don't lie. Tell me different. So there, but just that freedom also to kind of do whatever you want. And then afterwards, you feel bad and you're like, all right, let me reload because now I owe like 7 million.
The bounty.
Yeah.
The bounty.
So you reload and you move on and you just deal with that dude that's dancing. And he's like, well, come on, have a good time.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
And you're like, bro, in another life, you were gone.
Yeah. So, but that freedom was definitely nice. So,
yeah.
And I'm pretty sure everybody's like, I'm probably monitored by the FBI at this point, but that's all right.
I mean, you know what? I think if they're listening to you on some secret call right now, they probably were like, you know what, dude, I did the same thing. I saw that alien guy, and
sure there are people that have done it.
He pissed me off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I used my government issued Glock and deleted him from the game. No. Oh, there we go. Now we're both on a list, Bootsy.
Perfect. Well, at least we're in it together.
Yeah. Like just how we started. Yeah. No, it's fun hearing your kind of take on the game. And funny enough, the more I hear it, it makes me want to go try to find experiences like this for myself. and I have a feeling people listening to this probably might feel the same thing as well. But
yeah, I've always been, especially in like single player games, right? So recently I got back into a game called Days Gone. I also play. I was going to say Left 4 Dead, but that's not it. State of Decay 2. And then again, like Starfield, Skyrim, the Fallout franchise. And I personally, and maybe this is the thing that gets me on the FBI watch list. I don't know. I'm one of those people that if I'm playing a game like that by myself, I will put myself in the situation or in the shoes of the character that I'm playing. So it's like I am this character and I am part of the UC Navy, and here is how I am going to act. And there's times where I'm actually by myself, and I actually am talking to myself while I'm playing the game, and I'm like, "Hello, fellow citizen, good to see you." And so
yeah.
I also play. I play a lot of D&D and stuff like that too. So the role playing aspect kind of, I guess, comes out there too. So at the end of the day, a game is what you make it, but even if a game is still lacking content, you can still kind of make it fun with your own, it's as fun as you decide to make it. So
right, yeah, and that's what
at the end of the day,
yeah, it's a sandbox game, and it's your sandbox to own, and yeah, and oh man, I feel like I'm being sold on the game, even though I'm not gonna lie, I came in here like being like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna be mean to the game.
We haven't gotten to the negatives yet, so don't.
Yeah, I've only said one. Oh yeah, I've only said one. But I mean, you're giving me less, or you're taking my negatives away from me. You're providing me with positives that make me want to play the game instead of never install it again. But
well, let's talk about the things that'll make you never install it again. So
yeah,
why don't you tell us what you think about what were your negatives about the game?
Should I just go like hard and up front? Oh yeah, hi there, Pico.
Yeah. Also, yeah. Pico's his cat, by the way, in case you're wondering what like he doesn't just have a bowl of Pico de Gallo like in front of him.
No.
He's like, oh, Pico.
No, I just had my cat try to Conor McGregor the microphone into my face. Nice. So, all right. First and foremost, in this, it's the level of this has gone down as you have talked about the positives, but I feel like, see, I don't know if I should say I felt like or if I still feel like. I'm still worried. I feel like, even with what you've told me, that the game is just kind of just still boring, man. It like I think it's hard for me to say that. It's hard for me to say that because listening to what you've talked about, I can already say, well, it's not boring for this person. It was so boring for me where I'm just like, okay, I ran to this person and it got to the point, as I love Bethesda lore. I love the way they write their stories. I was like just skipping dialogue at a certain point. I was wanting to rush through the dialogue as quick as possible. And man, I just feel like one of those like loser people that like didn't try with the game. I feel like I really did try with this game, and I like the dialogue was boring to me. Sorry, I just had a ghost to turn off my light.
It was a haunted.
I think so. It's the ghost of all the devs that worked on this game. I feel like I tried with this game. I really do, and it was just the dialogue was boring. And I guess this moves more towards the main quest. So I don't. Is it like? Can I talk about the main quest a little bit? Like,
go
is that?
Yeah. No, it's not allowed. No. We're here to talk about Starfield, but you can't talk about the main quest.
You're gone. Oh man, the main quest was just a snooze fest for me. The bit that I did before I stopped and moved towards the other faction I was working on, it was a snooze fest. Anytime I went back to like the main like like the headquarters on New Atlantis or whatever, and was talking to like the party of people that was doing this and that, and like I'm like slowly winning them over. I'm like, dude, I don't even care what, like, I don't know. They weren't saying anything where I was like, oh, like that was a useful take from that person, and yeah, I don't know. I felt more of that with the side quests, and
Right.
it made me it put a bad taste in my mouth that I think let affect most of the other gameplay, like, or it affected the gameplay as it came to me, even if it had nothing to do with that story. I was expecting most of the dialogue to have that level of dryness, again, in my opinion. So yeah, that's my biggest negative to start out with. I mean, I can nitpick from there, but that is my biggest and most broad negative to begin with, is that I just thought it was boring. That's the main reason why I uninstalled it.
I can agree that the main story was the best thing to come out of the story. The main story was Andreja, because I romanced her in like every single playthrough that I went through.
Yeah.
Sorry for all of you Sarah fans out there. Sorry for all of you Sam Coe fans out there. And also, I mean, honestly, if I could romance Vasco, I 100% would. But as a result, you know, we can't romance Vasco without mods. So, Andreja it is. But aside from, and I have reasons for not romancing Sarah, and there are reasons that I won't mention because I'm afraid of certain people that are going to watch this. So, I'll get into that with you off of this. But,
I can't wait.
No, actually, I can be honest about it. So the really awkward thing about Sarah is Sarah looks exactly like my cousin. So that's like some Sweet Home Alabama shit. I'm not going for it. Andreja it is. Or Vasco. So, but those were that was like the best thing to come out of the storyline. The storyline itself was very yeah, right?
Oh, some sweet home. What did you say? Some Sweet Home
Some
Alabama
Sweet Home
bullshit?
Alabama shit. Yeah. I wasn't messing around with that.
It's all right.
So, I think the story otherwise was very bland, and it was also very repetitive, because in order to get to certain parts of the storyline, you had to do the same kind of mission over and over again to progress the storyline, to get to an actual story mission that had not really much depth to it. So, there were some really cool ones, especially towards the end. As you get closer to the end of the story, when you have to make your choices at the end, I think there's some really cool aspects there, but really there's not much to get once you get to that point, or until you get to that point, really.
Right.
And the fact that it's only a handful of missions, I think really brings the main story down a lot of pegs for me. So
yeah,
I agree with you as well that the main story itself was very lackluster.
Yeah. Maybe I think I let it affect me too much. I don't know. I kind of feel like that's what I'm gathering from this, again, with the positives that you listed, and how it kind of contrasted with my negatives. But one thing I will say about the Sarah character is that, yeah, you said she looked like your cousin. I thought she looked just like fucking Hillary Clinton. And like,
well, what a coincidence, because my cousin,
no way.
Yes, it's Hillary Clinton.
That's, I don't know.
How'd you know? Beep, 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 beep.
Yeah, this was just one giant political like campaign for Hillary Clinton. It was dumb as soon as I thought of it, but I couldn't help it. As soon as I jumped into the game and I met her, I'm like, Hillary Clinton? But hey, maybe Hillary Clinton is like, has some like great grandchildren that are just like some like galactic badasses. Anyways, no more done with political shit. That was just my first thought, so I thought I'd throw it out there. Yeah. I'm trying to think of some other negatives. My first negative might have summed up most of my experience.
I think so. I think another negative, and this I think is not just me. I think it's a majority of people. The loading screens. That drove me absolutely crazy. And of course, like you want to walk out of a building, loading screen. You want to walk into your ship, loading screen. You want to fast travel to another planet, loading screen. You want to land on a planet, loading screen. So when you think about it, you have like 5 or 6 loading screens if you go the actual route that the game wants you to go. You have like 5 or 6 loading screens until you actually get to your location.
Yeah.
And granted, you're on an SSD. You're playing this game on an SSD. I promise you, if you're playing this game on a normal hard drive, God bless you, because I have no idea how you're doing it. But playing this game, going like on a excuse me, as far as like playing this game on an SSD, like your whole loading screen times are less, but you're still going through like 6 of them to get to your location, and that drove me crazy.
Yeah, oh man, I'm so glad you said that. You're saying some things I completely forgot about, like that actually annoyed the shit out of me, and that was like, man, one of the biggest ones is just walking up to your ship and right off the bat loading screen going into your ship. I don't know why it annoys me so much. I think it's because it's loading screen followed by immediate loading screen if you're traveling somewhere. Like I'm already going to get over the fact that the way the flying the ships in the game was not like Star Citizen. And I think in that way, I think I've just been spoiled by Star Citizen.
Oh, agreed. I'm with you on that. So,
but to have a loading to have to load into climbing up the ladder into your ship like it's a separate level, it's not. I don't feel like it's enough detail in the ship to validate another loading screen. Then again, I'm not a dev, so I don't want to talk too much shit, but I can't help it. Like, knowing how much work goes into it or not, it still annoyed me to have to do.
How many video games exist today where you can just get into your ship and there's no loading screen, or your vehicle and there's no loading screen? It's not just Star Citizen,
right?
Because obviously Star Citizen runs on its own engine, so you're not like, for me, I can jump into my ship and I can run around and do whatever I want, but there's no loading screen.
Right.
But there's no loading screen anywhere. To me, it's like, why did you not take the time to study some other games and really, like, I'll take a game like, I don't know, I've been playing Ghost Recon Breakpoint, right? Mm-hmm. Why is there no loading? Like, there's no loading screen to get into the truck.
Yeah.
Into a truck. There's no loading screen to get into a helicopter in that game. Why is there a loading screen to get into your ship?
Yeah,
you should just be able to open a hatch, climb in, and you're in your ship. And I feel like almost, and I could be wrong, but I almost feel like it was laziness on the developer's part to not just add those extra couple of animations.
It definitely makes you wonder. And here's a comparison that I feel like makes sense. And I'm only gonna say this one more time, okay? And the rest of the time, if anyone listening to this doesn't realize I consider this into everything I say, it's on you at this point. I understand I'm not a developer and I don't know how to make a video game, okay? I understand that. Example of a small fix that makes a world of difference in this situation is, I forget the exact name of the mod, Open Mod Skyrim or whatever. First thing you do when you walk up to Whiterun, open the doors, there's no loading screen, and you're like, how did they do this? Right? And there could be a game dev listening, they're like, you're such a dumbass right now because you don't even realize that it's made like this, and that's the reason why, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, dude, but to have that seamless transition into just walking into your ship and then a loading screen going into space, whatever. But yeah, I mean, at a certain point, especially if you're trying to grind these missions, which I that's what I started doing. Like whenever I first started playing, was I was so tunnel visioned in the direct like storyline that it was go to New Atlantis, talk to this person. Okay, I'll go grab that, or go kill this, or go do this, and then go to the spaceport, get in my ship, loading screen while I jump, loading screen. Go back, talk, loading screen. Like it hurts after a while, and you're just like, it makes you wonder, like, did anyone think about this while making the game? And so I try not to like sound like an asshole whenever I'm critiquing it like that, but I mean, after so much time, and as someone that didn't finish the game, it getting old for me, I can only imagine how old it got for anyone else that played the game longer than me. The huge gripe. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah, that's probably one of my big ones. And then on top of that, the outpost building. The outpost building in general, as Shavo morphs into a chair. He's back. Okay. The outpost building. The outpost building to me felt 100% useless. Like there was absolutely no reason for you to ever really build an outpost. The only reason I ever built one was to hide contraband there until I was able to get my like commerce and social ability up to the point where I can get past security checkpoints so I can get into a city and sell.
Right.
So like there really was no reason for outposts. Kind of like how I felt like in Fallout, there was really no reason to have any of these extra little settlements. But if there was more of a reason for me to own these outposts or for me to build these outposts, I feel like I would have been more inclined to build like the ultimate outpost. But
yeah,
you know, it might be fun for some of the builders out there, for some of the people who enjoy doing that. I mean, I know there's a bunch of channels out on YouTube and a bunch of people that stream it on Twitch that play either Fallout 4 or Fallout 76 or now even Starfield, where people actually just, their whole channel is based off of building these cool little bases. And it's cool because, you know, you get to see there's a lot of creative people out there who can build these things, and you can add that also to the shipbuilding side of things. But at the end of the day, the base building itself really doesn't benefit much as far as I'm concerned. I feel like the shipbuilding is more important because you can outfit a ship the way you want. You can add more guns, you can add more storage if you want to run cargo, and so on, and add more shielded cargo if you want to run contraband. So that makes more sense, but the actual base building itself, to me, really almost was like just an addition because it was like, yeah, we've added it in the last 2 Fallout games that we've done, so we may as well do it here.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it felt like to me. So
yeah, I think being able to build your own base is always going to be fun. Having a purpose for it is always going to make it way more fun. And just having it as a glorified storage crate or storage inventory, whatever, that doesn't really cut it for me. And luckily, kind of hearing that already, I did not even waste any time base building. Funny enough, the whole last part of the clip that's playing right now, Bootsy, is you building your outpost base, whatever is going on, and it looks cool. Like it looked really cool. But yeah, it's like if you can't have that functionality into it, then I personally just can't help but ask why while I'm doing it. Like why am I building this?
Right.
Or why am I taking the time to get like these materials to do this? Or yeah, I don't know. So that I wasn't going to go into this with that being one of my negatives, but it was something that could have been a positive if, yeah, it, like I said, if it just brought the functionality into it.
Yeah, agreed. If you don't mind, I'm going to go into another negative.
Go
Listen,
for it.
I have, like
You
I said, I
put in way more time than me.
Right before this video too, I was like, I'm starting to see more of the negatives. Another, excuse me, another negative that I had noticed as well is not just, oh god, not just the base building, but also the repetitiveness of every planet. Every planet, they have, you look at the solar system in this, or the system in this game, right? Like this entire universe that you're in. And you see all these planets and you're like, holy shit, there are so many planets. How am I even going to like visit all of these in a single playthrough? You don't have to. Just go visit 10 of them and you've seen all of them. Because at this point, like, it becomes a lot of those things become very repetitive. You've played,
Right.
You go to a planet and you have copy and paste of the same facilities that you saw on the previous planet. Or, of course they tried to add the concept also from No Man's Sky where you can scan fauna and flora from that planet and those and you can catalog these things and learn more about them, and which was cool. But then when they're on, out of the 100-something planets that exist in this game, they exist on like 30 of them, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I've seen this thing already. And
Yep.
You start to land on planets and you start to realize that repetitiveness. And I almost wish they had less planets with more going on and there was more uniqueness to each planet, as opposed to, we're going to just pump out a bunch of planets, but 10 to 15% of them are going to be the same,
Yep.
So it when you land on a planet and you're like, oh, this reminds me of a planet I visited like 3 planets ago, it's not really great. Again, I wish they kind of focused, and of course some planets have some special missions, some planets have special side quests and unique little things that happen, but for the most part, a lot of these planets tend to just have the same facilities, the same creatures, the same plants, the same elements that exist on that planet. There's just a lot of similarities, and it kind of, that part of it also takes away from the exploration. It kind of gets boring after a while.
Right. And I didn't get to that point while playing, but I can definitely kind of reimagine that from my time in No Man's Sky. Nothing against No Man's Sky, but I mean, yeah, you see enough and you kind of seen them all at that point. And yes, nothing's going to be exactly like the other one, but it takes away that the wanderlust, of course, from like visiting your second planet or your third planet, but I get that, and that's kind of a not great feeling to feel. And I would be lying if I didn't think that whenever this game was being advertised and they were talking about all of the planets, and I'm like, well, I know you didn't go through and individually design each planet down to like the tree that's standing in this spot, so yeah, but I don't know. I kind of knew that going into it, but yeah, I definitely still see that as a downside. The wanderlust of these of games like these, it's a strong part of the excitement of the game, I feel like. So kind of losing it, or kind of becoming dull, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think not to keep bringing Star Citizen into this, right? But you look at Star Citizen doesn't have a lot of planets, right? You don't have a lot of planets, you don't have a lot of moons, but every planet and every moon is unique, whether it's its atmosphere, its weather system, the way it looks, its overall topography. Everything is different depending on where you go. There are no similarities, really.
Right.
And I think that was something. Now, of course, does Star Citizen have the same system with a whole bunch of plant life and wildlife? No. And the worlds are severely lacking in that regard. But at least the planets have their own individuality. You know,
Right.
you could tell me like I want to go to Walla, and I'm like, that place sucks. Like it's just a snowy mountainous, or not Walla, Lyria. It's just a snowy mountainous planet. It sucks. It's cold all the time. I always have the wrong spacesuit and I die of hypothermia. But like, but then when you go and you play something like, Starfield, sure, the planets feel alive, but there are too many planets that feel like they're the same. So
yeah, and don't worry, those of you who are fans of Star Citizen or are not fans of Star Citizen, because I think Bootsy and I both have things to say. Yeah, it is coming. We will have an episode on it. Those of you that know us already know. Like, if you know, you know. But those that don't know us, we have a history. We have a history with Star Citizen.
We've been to jail.
We've been to jail. Yeah, we've got I have 3 misdemeanors and 1 felony. It's still being disputed. Still trying to get my job at Target, but we're waiting for that contract. Anyways, long story short.
Program for that.
Any big negatives before we kind of head towards the back end of this thing?
No, I think I've kind of hit all of the big ones, at least for myself. I can go on for a very long time about the smaller negatives, but we'd be here for about 3 hours if that was the case. So.
Hey, Patreon, if you want to see the full 3-hour podcast. Who knows? We might do it at some point. I don't know.
Might be.
Sick. I don't know, dude. I'll say mine first because mine's going to be shorter than yours. Like other things, but my overall view of the game, I think it's a very impressive game. I feel like if someone said like it wasn't an impressive game, or it wasn't like something that brought something new to the table, I would feel like they're lying, because it's like, it is an incredible game. I've kind of just chalked it up to it's not for me. And I mean, to be the boring guy, I guess like anything you don't like, it's just not for you. Everyone's going to like something you don't like. But yeah, I found it too boring, and I hate it because I wanted to be so excited about this game. I really wanted to embrace this game. I wanted it to take over my life until I got as close to 100%ing it, and then I would not play it for a long time and come back to it, forgetting just enough of the fine details, and play it again, just like I do Skyrim. To this day, I still will make a new save in Skyrim because it's so nostalgic to me, and I had such a good experience. And whenever I walk past this NPC and they say something, I'm like, oh, fucking Jerry, fucking saying the same shit he always does. Like, I miss that stuff, and I love that. And yeah, I just I don't know. Overview summed up, I'm gonna return to it. Maybe not soon. Maybe when I'm in a more patient mindset to just have that full feeling of exploration, and maybe push out the pressure of getting back into that main story. But yeah, all around, my first impression was negative. Talking to Bootsy tonight, I was not going to go back and play it before. I'll go back and play it now. I don't know if that means anything, and I'll give it a little rating a little later after you go through your stuff.
Okay, so I think overall, I've always been a fan of single player RPGs. So I'm also kind of biased in that regard, where I really enjoy the single player aspect, and I enjoy just kind of being able to None of my friends are online to play games like Lethal Company. We'll get into that later. But, none of my friends are around to play any multiplayer games that I'm used to normally playing. It's nice to just kind of kick back, put some music on, and play something in a single-player environment like Starfield. So I personally believe in something that I've always been a strong believer in, is that a single-player experience or any game that you play is what you make it. And you can make an absolute shit game one of the most fun experiences if you know how to have fun with it. If you can take that game and meld it into something that you enjoy, then hats off to you, because a lot of people might think opposite, right? And I enjoy being able to be in a single player environment by myself and kind of act like my own character. And occasionally I would do that on streams as well. I don't really just play a game, a single player game, just to play a single player game. I play because I want to be that character. I want to get into the mindset of that character, right? So I thoroughly enjoyed that part of the game. There's definitely a lot to be desired. Again, the main story kind of sucked. I won't beat around the bush on that. The loading screen issues was a thing. Ship piloting was also another issue that I had. But overall, I think I still enjoyed the game. And it's something that I will probably go back to, not yet. Just like any Bethesda game, I am a huge fan of modding my Bethesda games. So I am currently just waiting until mods come out, better mods come out. All right. There are mods out there, but there aren't a lot of mods out there yet. So right now, as far as my Starfield experience is concerned, that is currently going back on the shelf for now until the modding scene really starts to come through, which they always do for Bethesda games. So I'm looking forward to what the future has for that to make the game an even more fun and enjoyable experience than I've already had in that game. And I guess if you want, I can go first with a rating out of 10.
Sure, let's do it.
Cool with that? All right. So I would say, as far as Starfield is concerned, I would give Starfield a 7.5 out of 10.
Oh.
Again, a lot to be desired with the main story. I personally enjoyed all the side quests, and again, I think another big boon to this game is going to be whatever the mod creators make. So, very much looking forward to the future of Starfield and the Starfield modding community, and I will definitely be revisiting this game in the future. But for now, the game goes on the shelf, and I think with all of the issues that we've discussed and all the positives that we've discussed, I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10. Shavo?
Nice. Wow. That was less than what I thought. I guess when you think about it, it's like, if not, like 8 is still a good review. 9, of course, is a great review. I'm going 6 out of 10. Underwhelming game for me, still above average. It's really, I feel like if I were to go fully into it, I would be repeating a lot of what you're saying is of it's going to go on the shelf for me right now. Mods are going to be amazing. I feel like the Bethesda community has always shined when it comes to showing off their creative abilities to improve Bethesda games. But yeah, right now I don't think about it. It's not a game where I lose sleep because I didn't enjoy it. It's just it didn't push itself into my life like I wanted it to. As absolutely as depressing as that sound, I wanted it to be my next Skyrim. I knew it wasn't going to be my next Skyrim, but I wanted it to be something new and special. And right now it's not. So I would love for it to. Yeah, I would love for it to to change like in the future. And I think mods could help with that, or just allow me to experience it in a different way. Maybe that's what I need. But
or DLCs, that's another thing that we haven't really taken into consideration. Fallout 4 was kind of just a mediocre storyline, but then Far Harbor and Nuka World were phenomenal DLCs. So.
I do agree with that. I will disagree with the initial campaign. All right, that'll be the first disagreement of the podcast. Right, put on your fucking boxing glove.
So that'll be a good one. So I think Fallout 4 might be a good one for the future. But
yes,
there's also the possibility of we don't know what the DLCs for Starfield are going to hold. So, if there are any. So
for sure. And I hope they don't just leave it at this. And I don't think they will. I think there's still a ton of people that do truly adore Starfield and the vanilla experience that they've had with it so far. So yeah, I can't wait. And maybe who knows, maybe it'll be another episode we do in the future of revisiting Starfield after mods or DLC or I don't know, whatever happens.
Exactly.
Cool. I mean, I guess we've talked about the game. We've rated it. I think you guys have a good understanding of how we feel about the game. I will go ahead and say, if you were paying attention to any of the gameplay that was going on, I know he can say it for himself, but I want to emphasize it as much as I can. Bootsy's a streamer, and he's an incredible streamer. Bootsy, can you explain to these people? I'm not signing off quite yet, but I would love for these people to know where they can continue watching gameplay provided by you.
Sure. So, as Shavo said, I do stream on Twitch. And it's going to be twitch.tv/Bootsy83191. If you need to hit that at half speed for you YouTube viewers, you can go ahead and do that so you can actually get the numbers at the end of that. And for those of you that are also on YouTube, we'll post that down in the description below.
Absolutely.
And also, a majority of my stuff is simulation-based, so don't take just the Starfield stuff for granted. I do a lot of more in the simulation kind of world, but a game like Starfield, I felt like I had to stream. I love Bethesda as a whole. So those kind of games you will see me play from time to time as well. And then also, although he doesn't stream as much, and he's probably going to yell at me after this for plugging him in the first place.
No.
Yeah. Shavo also does stream as well. He is also on Twitch, and I will let him tell you where he can find you as well. Or where
Absolutely.
You can find him as well.
I am on Twitch over at twitch.tv/Sir Shavocado or Sir Shavocado, however you want to take that meme. But everyone calls me Shavo, including here and everywhere else, so you can just call me Shavo. But I've been taking a bit of a hiatus. I'm coming back for good old Alan Wake 2. Longtime fan of the original Alan Wake, so I had to come back during October and visit that for the first time. We did play the first one before the second one came out, but wanted to play that and come back, say what's up to the community. My plan is to continue streaming, but like all struggling streamers, schedule is always an issue, and the motivation to do so. I think what makes this podcast different from something like being consistent with the stream is that you have a good friend to do it with. So Bootsy and I have been friends for a stupid long time now, and we met through video games. So it's like, who better than
through Twitch, actually.
Through Twitch. Yeah. It's wild. Now we have 3 kids, and it's
and
wild.
We're almost on the verge of divorce. It's crazy.
It's insane.
Just
Jimmy's
like
on his junior year of college and struggling with a cocaine issue. It's wild. We've had a wild ride, Bootsy, but
it has been a wild ride. Also, while we've got you here as well, I know that during the course of this podcast, we were also drinking our said beers.
Mm-hmm.
The beer that you were drinking, the Wicked Weed beer that you were drinking, what were your thoughts on it as the podcast went on?
All right, so I actually just took my last sip of it, just finished it off here like 2 minutes ago, and it is like Starfield, a 6 for me, I would say. I did not hate it. I I would drink it again. But if it's between this and something else that looks better, I'm gonna grab something else. It was great. I don't know. It's hard to describe my like palate towards IPAs and just different beers in general. Because there's some IPAs that are super hoppy that I love, and there's some light beers that I really enjoy too. So this was a really nice fruity beer. It's a good beer to sit on for a while. It's definitely not like a drink it fast kind of beer, because it's got a good body to it that unfortunately kind of leaves a weird taste in your mouth if you've been talking for a while without having some water. But anyways, I digress. It wasn't a bad beer, but yeah, it wasn't the greatest. What about you?
Well, I'll give you I'll do something really quick before I go ahead and rate this beer. So give me one second.
Mm-hmm. What's he doing? Is that confetti? Oh. Ooh, get you some of that. It's not the only time that'll happen tonight. Man, including myself, I think the viewers are gonna love that. The beer ASMR.
Beer cracking.
Oh, it's great.
If the fact that I'm pouring a second one is any inclination of how I feel about this beer, this is also I might have also kind of thrown myself into this and biased myself by drinking a beer that I already genuinely enjoy. Personally, and I think for anybody here that actually knows the craft beer industry as a whole. So quick little thing about me is I was really big into trading beer, and I had a huge beer Instagram before, during like the whole IPA craze and all that stuff. And one thing that if you're in the craft beer community and you know who your go-to breweries as far as IPAs are in the US in general, Other Half is one of those breweries. Other Half will always be on that list. They're just consistently good. And Double Mosaic Dream is probably one of the best that they make, in my opinion. Mosaic hops are one of my favorite. So I might have actually like staged this rating a little bit more than than you going out and buying a random one. So I should probably do that next. But as far as Double Mosaic Dream, I am going to be unlike my Starfield review and give this beer a 9.5 out of 10.
Whoo, that's awesome. I love it. And you know what? I don't think you need to specifically go buy new beers, because I've never heard of that beer before, unless you've mentioned it to me and I've just forgotten. But I've never heard of that beer before. So hearing about these beers that are really good, it makes me want to do some beer trading,
You could send me stuff from you. I've got plenty of goodies I can send to you.
Yeah, I won't dox Bootsy, but I have a lot of breweries all around where I live in North Carolina, and they're all great. And it's one of those things I've been wanting to do it for a while, of finding someone to trade some beers with. But as probably most of you know, there's some interesting and fun laws when it comes to the shipment of alcohol. So luckily I send all of mine on a mule, and they are delivered within 4 months.
By carrier pigeon.
Yes, they're jacked pigeons. It's crazy.
Yeah, the biggest you've ever seen.
It's huge.
The other thing too, though, is I do like the fact that you grabbed something that was random. So probably the next one that we do, I will pick something that I don't know, and it'll probably be something new, as long as it doesn't have one of the hops that I'm allergic to. There's a specific hop that I'm allergic to. Yeah, pretty much. It's basically what it does to me.
It tastes really good, but it really hurts.
Strata is the hop, and I will break out in hives if I drink it. So As long as it doesn't have Strata, I will review it.
Great to know. I will make sure to look that up. Interesting, not so interesting fact about me. If it seems like I have a method to how I grab my beers, I don't. If the can looks cool, I'm grabbing it. And that's what I did with this one.
I don't think that's a bad method at all.
Yeah, funny enough, I hear of tons of people that do similar things to that.
Yeah, it looks cool. May as well grab it.
Yeah, this one looked awesome. But anyways, we could talk about beer all day, and maybe we should just start a separate podcast for that. But anything else you want to say to the nice people of whoever and wherever this is being listened to?
No. Thank you all so much for tuning in and listening to us this evening and listen to us ramble on about Starfield and beer and our past felonies. But
Yeah.
Seriously, thank you guys so much for listening to us. I know this is our first one, so please, any constructive criticism that you guys have in regards to this podcast, any way that we can make this better, any way that we can make this worse, let us know, please. We'll do them both. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I'd say other than that, appreciate you all being here and listening in.
Absolutely. What do you say? Let's get out of here.
Let's do it.
All right. See you guys.
Cheers.